episode. I hope that you guys have been enjoying the new setup, the new way that we're doing things. It is different for us too, because it feels like we're having a conversation. We're like, oh shit, we're doing a podcast here. So I hope that there is information in there that you can take with you, and it can help you not only like in your spiritual life, but just, in life, like period. Because I know it can just be overwhelming. Today we were out having lunch, and I was telling Joe, like, does it feel like just gloomy outside? And he's just like, well, it's heavy. There's a lot of stuff going on. And you can see it. You can see it on people's faces. You can see it on people's hearts. That things don't make sense. Things are it's like things are upside down. The home where we live in, where there used to be stability, that doesn't exist anymore. So it is a heavy thing to feel. And then when we feel that way, and then we're in our own little home, like in our own little unit, we're still carrying that. So the relationships that are around us are kind of like almost like put on the back burner. You know what I mean? Because we're trying to just figure things out, how we feel inside. And then by the time we know and we look around, we're just like, what is going on? Like, now I'm not okay with my mom. Now I'm not okay with my sister, my brother, my neighbor. Like, you know what I mean? Just what is going on? So I think that's where we wanted to go today with the podcast. Is we just wanted to talk about relationships. Not only the relationship that you have with each other, with people, but the relationship that you have with God. Like, where is it at? And just to kind of, help you maybe do like a little like self-evaluation, like where you're at.
For me, self-evaluation is a big deal. Like, without that, I feel like we don't grow. I feel like if we're not constantly, without trying to live in the past, but if we're not constantly trying to figure out how we could have done things better or differently, try to grow, try to improve on the way you say things, the way you think about things, your thought processes, and how you view the world. Like, without that, like, we're just always going to keep reliving the same hard times over and over again.
Yeah. For us, like, I don't know every girl, but for the most part, I think that, like, we wake up, we grow up having this dream that we're going to have this Prince Charming, and that's a relationship. That's a person in your life, and we think about this Prince Charming because they're in love, birds are flying, they ride on a horse, like just the relationship part. We see romantic movies. Why? Because of the gestures, because of the actions. But if you think about men, it's like, you guys don't watch romantic comedies. For you guys, it's just like, okay, it's over with. So in my mind, it's like, do we, us girls, because we're constantly always thinking like, okay, how was I as a mom today? Like, oh my God, I totally sucked. I totally blew it. Like, and oh my God, we haven't gone on a date in a long time. Like, he hasn't even kissed me. We haven't even had sex or whatever. It's like nonstop, for girls. Like, is it like that for guys, or is it like not even really in your forefront?
No, I don't even think about most everything that you just said.
Dang, that's crazy. Like, so, is it more safe to say that guys don't really think like that? That they just kind of go throughout like the motions of a day, or like a routine?
Well, routine is good because people thrive on routine. The danger of routine is that you get stuck doing the same thing over and over. And so I think for most guys, this is my personal opinion, that if we can find a routine or a groove, whatever you want to call it, that doesn't get us in trouble, right? Doesn't get us nagged at, doesn't get us yelled at. Honestly, if we can find a routine where that happens, then we don't want to change that, and I think it's just something that comes naturally because we don't want to have to deal with all of that, and manage all those issues all at once. So if we figure out how to do it in a way that doesn't get us in trouble, then that's probably how we're going to try to emulate that again, and then just do more of that.
Okay, so then what happens when people are married for so many years, and then like, because obviously the butterflies or that pressure of like, dude, I just want to have sex. I need to make sure I bring her flowers. I need to make sure I take her on a date. Like, I just can't get enough of her. Like, that's not there anymore. So then what happens is it just fades out slowly? Or do you guys need constant reminder? Or like, let's go on a date? Or did you bring me flowers? Or are you going to bring me a coffee? Like, do you guys need that?
Well, I don't really think I understand like all the. It seems like you asked like 10 things in one. I don't know. It just sounded like that. It was a lot. But what I think I captured out of all that was to just answer the whole like the sex part thing. Like that doesn't go away. I mean, there's within us parts of our system, the way we function, right?
Okay, yeah.
Hormones and all that stuff, testosterone, all of that happens to prompt us, right? That sudden desire to want to have sex, right? And so when that happens, that's the reminder. That's right. The prompt.
That's right.
Right? That's the reminder for me, like, okay, well, if I want to, have that, right? If I, to put it bluntly, when you need a discharge, right? You can take that as the simple, what do you call it? The biological need to discharge, I guess you would say. But that's supposed to prompt you to say, okay, now I want to have a relationship, right? Or I want to be intimate or want to have sex with my wife. And so in order for me to do that, then I need to do those things that you want me to do in order to make you feel like you want to have sex with me or be intimate with me. So if that means to get you, quote unquote, in the mood that I need to bring you flowers, well, then I need to do that. If it means I need to help you fold laundry, well, then I need to do that, right? If it means I take the kids so you can have a day to yourself, whatever, then I need to do that. And so that's the prompt. It's not, all those other things that you just kind of spewed all out at once. It starts with that. And then where we go from there determines our level of maturity.
Yeah.
So if I'm mature, right, that prompt to want to have sex doesn't take me to pornography or to masturbation or to seeking it somewhere else, right?
You guys are going to be like, I'm just going to turn this off right now.
Well, I'm just being honest, right? A mature person will stay away from those things, right? In order to then put the effort in to want to please my wife. That takes a lot of effort, right? It takes a lot of, sometimes you have to lay your pride down, or if you're in a bad mood or whatever, you better snap out of it real quick because it's not going to get you anywhere. So that's how I feel about that, and that's what I think about that. And so as you practice, going back to the level of maturity, the wise man, the mature man, over time will learn those things about his spouse and then do those things by practicing them, right? In the beginning, it might be your urge that pushes the reminder, okay, be nice to the girl, do something nice for the girl. Over time, if you're wise, right, and you love your spouse and you put the time and effort in, you practice those things. And the more you practice, the more it becomes normal and a habit. Nature. Yeah, and second nature. And so then maybe bringing flowers home after work or something, maybe it's not effort anymore. Maybe that's something that you've developed that pleases your wife, and it pleases you to see your wife smile, to make her happy. And if that's something, that started out by I'm just trying to get something, whatever, right? That happens. But in the context of marriage, that's okay because you're married.
Yeah.
Right. And I hope, it takes a mature woman to be able to say like, well, you're just doing this because you want something. Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's why he's doing it. But you can't disregard the act, right? The act of kindness, the effort, the love. And so maybe over time, maybe as a mature woman, you guide your husband, you influence him. Maybe then he does it because he loves you and because it makes you smile and because it makes you happy. And over time, it's not just because he wants something, but more than anything, he just wants to make your day. That's just something that comes through time and practice.
Yeah, and I think that the reason why I wanted to ask those questions, because a lot of the times, like, girls don't know, and it's just kind of like they're expecting the things, like the list that's in their head, and because it's not happening, then their relationship is valued way less than other people that do have that, which they don't know that secretly behind closed door, this is what's happening. Be nice to the girl. And then the girl also responds wisely. He was being nice, so therefore I'm going to be nice. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like a mutual thing versus like he's being nice, he doesn't get anything, and then he's discouraged, and then nothing happens, and then that's it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to keep trying. Like, this is hard already as it is because it's not in my blood. You know what I mean? To naturally be like this romantic movie all the time, this romantic K-drama all the time. You know what I mean? He's shaking his head.
Doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. Yeah. So it's sad because a lot of the times people end up divorcing or breaking their marriage because they're like, I'm not in love anymore. They don't love me, or he doesn't love me, or she doesn't love me, or you seek that, like those butterflies or that fake effect somewhere else, when it's like, this is it everywhere. At the end of the day, this is the foundation. How you act in the relationship and what you do for the relationship and for the other person, is what matters. Pastor Gabriel was giving this sermon this Saturday, and it's funny because I've been Sunday, and I've been posting a lot about Mary and Martha this whole week, and I was telling Joe that it was so funny about that he preached about that. And one of the things that when I was reading in the devotion, it was saying that the fact that Martha was like serving everybody, like that's a good thing. God wants us to be serving, and self-sacrificing and just being like, let me help you, let me do this for your neighbor. However, the part that he was just kind of like sad about was just like, Maria is, she's here, and she's like at my feet, and she was attentive to like the relationship part. You know what I mean? Like, just, do you see me? I see you. You know what I mean? Like that part. And he was sad because sometimes we get stuck in our priorities or our duties, like being a mom, being a worker, being even in the ministry, or doing things, and then we forget about the relationship part. You know what I mean? And that's not just with like our spouse or our kids, but with God. We forget because we just do the checkbox. Let me just read this word. Let me just check on this app real quick and, read this verse. And then, let me just post it on my stories and I'm good. Versus the relationship part, being at God's feet and just saying, like, I'm here. Like, I see you. Do you see me? You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, I think that's the part that I kind of wanted to go to, because I noticed that a lot of the times we don't know how to have relationships with people. We have a hard time. And the fact is that the person that we should go to so he can give us that love to care to have a relationship, like, we don't go to the foundation of the person that has like an infinity river of love. You know what I mean? And we don't have that time, or we don't make that time to go to him. And then we're like dry. We're dry, and we're trying to live out these relationships being dry and just being like self-seeking, because then it's all about you, versus let it be about somebody else, you know what I mean, that I care about, and giving them what they need,
Well, each person, gets a choice to decide what they do with their time and where they commit their time to. And so at the end, in our relationship with each other, if it's not working out, it's easy to blame the other person.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, the effort that I place is the effort that I place, and it's my choice. I could either decide to put it into my relationship or not. And there's no blaming anybody else, if my relationships with people are going wrong. And it's easy to say, well, it's because the other person's not available or not accessible. And it might be true to a certain degree, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to put effort, or that you have to stop putting effort. And I think that if we had two people in a relationship that thought that way, then I don't see how any relationship, couldn't make it work, or couldn't overcome obstacles. And I think that could be better mirrored if we practiced with our relationship with God, because God never changes. And so if you're going to do an experiment, right, you always want to have what's called a control, right? And the control is that dependable outcome that never changes. In this case, God would be the control, and if everything was going well in your relationship, then you could look at yourself to say, okay, what are these things that I'm doing right in my relationship with God? Those moments that you feel like things are terrible or God is non-existent, chances are it's because you've deviated your vision or your sight, and you're overwhelmed and worried about other things that are pulling you away from God. Yeah. And so if you could practice that in your relationship with God and dedicate and commit time to working on that relationship, you could mirror that same effort in your relationship with your spouse. And again, if there are two people that are thinking like that and committing themselves to put effort into the relationship, I don't see that there's any obstacle that they can't overcome. You know, and a lot of times when relationships fail, it has a lot to do with, you know, just some common things like, you know, just paying attention to your spouse. You know, do you really...
It's like, I mean, it sounds easy, but, you know, people are like, dude, like, you don't even know my wife.
Well, I mean, that might be true, but do you know your wife? You know, that's the question that we're talking about right now. And sometimes, you know, we bring out the best and the worst in each other.
Yeah.
And so if the worst is coming out of your spouse, you know, your husband or wife, why? You know, why is that? That's a good question to ask. You know, what is bringing out the worst in him or her?
Yeah.
And chances are, like it takes two, right, to make a relationship. So it might be that we're bringing out the worst, and it's to try and figure out, how that's happening. Like that takes a lot of effort and swallowing a lot of pride and laying down, you know, the desire to want to be right and to win, to really discover, you know, what it is that's causing issues and causing problems. There have been times in our relationship where, you know, things are not going right, or I feel like things are not going as good as they should or could be. And it might just be something like, you know, I'm thinking about work too much and it's affecting my home life now. And I don't think that it is, or I don't see that it is, but you say you can see it. So I guess that's what it is, you know? So I could either get upset about it or be like, no, that's not true. You don't know what you're talking about. Or I could stop and think about it and try to figure out if there's good reason for you to say that. Is there some truth to that? And that's it. You know, it doesn't need to be an argument. It doesn't need to be a fight. And I think that too often we get so upset and so butthurt over things that really are not that big of a deal. But that is another sign and an indicator that, one, our relationship with God is not good. Because when you're distant from God, you're cruel, you're cold, you know, you're not compassionate. And so if we're getting upset over the smallest criticism or somebody asking us a question, you know, we're getting offended so easily, then that might be an indicator for you to stop and take a look at, you know, reevaluate and do that self-evaluation to figure out what might be going wrong, you know, in your work environment, in your home environment, or in your heart, in your mind. I don't know. It's tough, but it's worth it. It's worth putting in the effort. Because, you know, I don't know where everybody's relationships are at right now, but, you know, having been married in the past and you know, this is my second marriage now, I don't want to do that again. Like, I don't want to relive. No, I don't. It was terrible. You know, it was a miserable experience. And I'm talking specifically about the breaking apart, you know, the actual process of like growing apart, going through the divorce and everything that comes with it. And it's a miserable, terrible experience, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And so I don't want to do that again. And so more than ever, you know, I have the motivation and the commitment and dedication to put the effort in to make sure that I don't walk that path again. It's not fun.
I appreciate that, because I ain't trying to do that either.
It's for real. It's terrible. Yeah, I'm glad you can laugh, because it's terrible.
It's okay. I'll laugh for you. Don't worry about it. I'll smooth the process out a little bit.
Yeah, but in the end, you know, like, I really believe what God instituted for us is the best that we could ever hope for in this life. And even that is nowhere near as good as it's going to be when we get to heaven, right? But in the context of what we're living right now, the closest thing that we have to understanding his analogies when it comes to, you know, Christ being the groom and we're church is the bride, like, you know, that coming together, that uniting of two to become one. You know, that the closest thing we have to that is marriage.
Yeah. It's weird because when Pastor Gabriel explained the verse this way, I had never ever heard it this way, but the only reason why I understood it is because that is the way that I'm with you, and that's the way you are with me. And that's why it was like a light bulb came on, and I'm just like, how can people understand this if they don't have a relationship this way? And, you know, so how can they understand to have this relationship with God? When he was reading the verse from the church, what was the church?
In Ephesus?
In Ephesus, yes. He was talking about how God was telling the church, you know, like, you do almost everything right. You know, you do good deeds. You're good people, like everything. He goes, but the only thing that I have against you is that you lost your first love. And he wasn't saying it like, you know, just like, I don't love you, like, that's it, we're getting a divorce. Like, no, he was just telling them, like, that he was hurt. He was hurt because they stopped loving him the way that they used to before. And it just reminds me of, like, if you're busy with work or with ministry and you just come home or you come into the office and you're busy, and I'm just like, hey, I text you, I miss you, can we go on a date? You know, and we talk about, like, hey, you haven't texted me or you haven't done this, and, you know, like, and I'm just saying it because I long for you, because I miss you, you know. And if you would turn around and look at me and be like, what the heck, like, what's wrong with you, you know what I mean, like, stop being a crybaby, I'd be like, dang, I'd be hurt, you know. So when God tells us that, you know, and needs us, and we just turn around and we're just like, okay, back to whatever I was doing, you know what I mean, like, that has to hurt. So my point is that just that, like, in order for us to understand just how it is to be able to kind of have that connection, like, we need to work on having those connections. That part where you just, somebody tells you something that they need of you and you just are eagerly to make it better, you know what I mean? Or just like, I hurt you that way, like, I don't want to hurt you, like, let me fix that. Like, you need me to love you more, like, let me hug you, you know what I mean? Versus like, I have to hug her again, like, you know what I mean? Just that eagerness to just be there for one another, like, not only for each other, but even for our kids. If our kid says, Mom, like, it was, you haven't even, you know, put us to bed, or you haven't even prayed with us for bedtime, or we haven't even gone out, or whatever it is, we're just like so quick to be offensive and like to put up a wall and be protected. Like, they're offending us by just telling that they need us, you know?
Yeah. So what would the solution be?
Hear them out and do it. No thought process, no like overthinking things, no taking it personal. It's just kind of like, can you turn off the lights? Let me turn off the lights. Simple as that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the right thing, you know. Too often every time we get offended, it's because we put ourselves first. You know, like, I'm putting myself in the center of, you know, this universe that I run. And honestly, and so the reason I get offended is because, you know, how could you say that to me? Or how could you come against me? Or how could you not understand me? And, you know, sadly, I probably struggle with that a lot, especially in the beginning, you know, with the kids. And it's not that I don't want them to need me, or I don't love them, or I don't want them to want to come to me. But my problem is it was in my immaturity, I was first. And so if I felt like I was doing something really important, and they came to me, whatever the scenario would be, then
get frustrated.
Yeah, then I would get frustrated. And it wasn't because I didn't love them, it was because they were interfering with me doing this really important thing. Dang. Whatever it was.
Savage. Yeah, thinking about it like that, I'm just like, that's like all of us. It's everybody.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing. I can't imagine there's anything that's that important that we can't just stop for a moment, you know, and listen to what our kids have to say, or listen to our spouse. I don't imagine that there's anything that's so important that we can't stop for like 15 seconds, you know, and listen to what somebody has to say. And even if it's like, I hear you, I get it, I love you, I'm right in the middle of something, as soon as I'm done with this, then we'll do that, or I'll take care of that. Yeah. You know, whatever it might be. And again, it's just, I think in our selfish way, we put ourselves first And when we do that, it's really hard to put anybody else ahead. And that's part of what Jesus is asking of us, right? I don't think that God really needs us, right? I think we need God more than we could ever realize. Yeah. And if we really understood what God was trying to do for us, that it's always going to be in our best interest, then we would probably fight a lot less.
Yeah.
To just be obedient. At the same time, if we practice that, then how much easier would it be in our relationship to serve our spouse?
Yeah.
To serve our children. And at the heart of what we do while we're here, that's what Jesus wants us to do. He wants us to serve people and not be so concerned about being served.
So this week, guys, just make an effort to, figure out where you're at. Make sure that when your spouse comes with a request or just needs your help, that you're there, that you're attentive, that you give them the time of day. If your kids come, give them the time of day, and don't overthink things, and make sure that when you respond, you think, okay, and always remember that little hand and that little throne, like who's sitting on there? Is it just you? Is it, your self-righteousness, your pride, like who is sitting on that throne? Who's taking over your decisions? And when you're able to practice that this week, you're going to be able to just be kinder and be loving and be more forgiving and more graceful. And, just we need that right now. We definitely need that in this world right now. So we're going to go ahead and pray, and then we're going to, if you mind praying for us.
Yeah. Lord, thank you for giving us this ability to be able to reach people. Lord, I pray that for whomever's listening, that they would just find themselves and have an opportunity to stop and just evaluate where they are, what their relationships are like. If there's room for improvement, Lord, where might that be? And help them, Lord, as they discover and look into themselves and find areas that need improvement. Just give them the strength, the encouragement that they need to make the change. Lord, help them to be consistent and constant in their desire to want to be better and do better and love others better. Lord, I pray that they would see results for the effort that they put in. And no matter what it might feel like, even when it feels like they're losing or when it feels like nobody's listening or nobody cares about the effort, Lord, would you just remind them how important it is to stay consistent, to work through it, Lord, and to be able to see and know that you're with them, that you're near, and that in the end you'll work all things out for their good. In Jesus' name we pray.